All right. Technical session number 16. Note taking and documenting. It is critical to the IT process to document your findings. It's hard to know where we're going if we don't know where we've been. And it's hard to know where others have been if they don't tell you. So the objectives for this particular one is we're going to be explaining the role of note-taking when reading and resolving tickets. List the principles of effective note-taking and documenting for tickets. Evaluate sample notes to determine how to improve the notes based on the criteria for success. Write effective notes and documentation that capture a summary of a problem, the likely cause of the problem, and the solutions. And not just the solutions, but things that you tried along the way that didn't work. Because sometimes it's as important to know what doesn't work as it is to know what does. So here's a good one for us. What skills do good note takers have? What skills do good note takers have? Good listening. Yeah, that's a good one. All right. Explain the specifics, do's and don'ts solutions. Attentiveness, understanding, asking the right question, and empathy. Good listener, organized, and able to deduce. Knowing what information is vital and needs to be written down. That's, yeah, I would say. Clear notes entailing what took place. Multitasking, listening, and attention. Being brief but concise after thorough listening. All right, drop the link. Added empathy because people can tell if you're really listening. I like that. I wouldn't say I'm a very empathetic person, but at least that's what I've been told. But yeah, I could see that. Active listening is a good one. And to be fair, the person who said I was not empathetic is Avery. That's just because we were exceptionally mean to him throughout the entire cohort. And for some odd reason, he thought that would get better when he came back as a TA.
It's true. It didn't get better.
All right, so note 1. Let's see here. Aster, can you please read this one for us?
Every time she tries to open Adam, she gets an error. In her error message, she cannot do any work until issue is resolved.
Does anybody see any problems with this? There's a few. So like looking at this, what might we say is wrong here? Where could things go awry?
It's not in full words. It's abbreviated and shorthanded.
Yeah. So MG, that could be message, could be manager. You know, could be a couple things. Week, work versus WK. Anything else we see?
Resolved. Second one, I think.
Yeah, RSD would be, you know, is that resolved, reserved, restarted? So there we go, Melinda. Who is she? You may work at a company where there's only, you know, one woman working there. Unlikely, but maybe. So who is she? So I like that. Anything else? No date and time. So yeah, when did this occur? How do we know? Rachel.
I'm gonna say that, but also what system is she working on? Is it a laptop or desktop?
Yeah, what is she working on? There you go. Anything else that needs a little more specific information, Hunter?
This may have already been said, but what's the error message?
Error message. What is the error message? Yeah, that would be very helpful. I would agree. What about where the problem is occurring? Okay. So it's happening in Adobe, right? Adobe Photoshop, Adobe Reader. Adobe is a suite of products. It is not a specific product itself. Which Adobe are we talking about? So we need a little more specificity as to what errors are occurring or what is actually having the problem. That's almost like saying, like, I have a problem in Microsoft. Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote. So this would be a good example of bad notes. So we don't have critical information. We may remember who we talked to and stuff like that, and you know, and when it occurred in recent history. But if we show you this note 2 years from now and say, hey, can you tell me what happened with this ticket? You're going to look at that and go, I have no idea. This was one thing that I first I started experiencing in transportation, and I wasn't corrected on it. I kept making notes similar to this. And then 2 years, a year down the line, I'm being, you know, have these notes brought back to me. So it was literally a year before this stuff started getting corrected, because I realized how much these notes were required later. So yeah, and so I literally had to deal with that for a full year to catch back up to the point when I was done with the notes. So here's another note. Looks a lot better, doesn't it? So 2/8/16, 2:34 p.m. Clara Jones. Each time Mrs. Jones tries to open up Adobe Acrobat Reader, she receives an application error. The issue is preventing her from completing her work. We agreed that the help desk will remote into her computer at 5:30 p.m. this evening to investigate the issue. Not a whole lot more typing, but much more descriptive as to what's going on. If I came back to this note a year from now, I could clearly state what has occurred, what we were going to do, and who was affected when this happened, and what exactly was going on. So here they are side by side to give you kind of an idea what's going on. Now, if you're going to use something like shorthand, if you're jotting notes down by hand and then you're going to transcribe them into the system later, this may be acceptable, you know, because it allows you to write it out really quickly and then go back later and then detail it in. So, but this would be jotted notes versus your transcribed notes. But also this one, anybody who comes behind me, whether it be second shift or my manager, anybody who comes behind me and looks at these notes can tell exactly what I did. Not just me a year from now, but any one of my teammates as well. Yeah, you may have software, Stephen, where you can put notes in a tablet. It all depends on the organization you're with, what systems they have in place. If you're working for small to mid-sized companies, you may be the person tasked with creating these systems because they may have nothing in place prior to you arriving and you have to start developing this stuff. You know, what are going to be the standard operating procedures when a ticket comes in? How are we going to track these tickets? How do we know when they're completed? Are we going to have an internal knowledge database that we're going to work from? Things like that. So you may be in a situation where you have to create these things. If you're in a smaller company, as an IT person, you have to wear many hats. So, you know, you're kind of a jack of all trades, master of none, and you need to serve as many needs for the company as you can. You would think email, but email is a very scary place to keep tickets. Just how. All right. So here are some 8 criteria for effective note taking. First one, record the client's full name. How are they notated in the system? And then also if they have a preferred name. So you have their name, which they will be recognized in the system, and then a preferred name that they wish to be called. So record the client's full name. Second, date and time that you spoke to the client. And each time you do so, every time you speak to the client about that ticket, you update the ticket and add those notes. So when they say, oh, you know, such and such hasn't reached out to me, I put this ticket in a week ago and nothing's been done. And then your supervisor can go in and look and be like, well, it appears they talked to you on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. And they've given you updates as to what's going on. So it appears they are working on it and they have given you updates. So it gives your supervisors ammo to protect you if that's the case. And it lets everybody know what you've done. So in case, you know, people get sick from time to time, you may get the flu, you may not be able to come in. People who work with you can look back at your tickets and go, okay, I know where they're at. Use standard English and correct grammar. Obviously, this is if you're at an English-speaking company, if you're at a company, if you're an expat overseas, whatever the primary language is of the area you're in, that is the language it is recorded in. Be concise. We're not writing a novel. It's just the facts. You know, we're telling them this is exactly what's going on. No fluff, no muss, no more than needed. So be concise. Include important details about the case. Are there important time constraints that the team needs to be aware of that's going on here? You know, for updating all the systems in the company, all of them must be done by, say, January 15th. Because that is when our contract expires with the previous software and we lose access. So we need to update prior to that so that people can continue working. That would be an important detail. Note any circumstances that may make the ticket urgent. Is the person unable to do their job? That makes it a little more urgent. Are there 50 people unable to do their job? That makes it extremely urgent. So remember, we were talking about tickets. We had to talk about how many people were affected, the severity of the issue, and the number of systems affected. Record any unsuccessful actions attempted in the case. So again, like we were stating earlier, sometimes it's as important to know what doesn't work as to what does work. Because one, you don't want to continue doing the same thing over and over again. It's Einstein's definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. You know, we don't want to do that. If it's already been tried, it's already been done, you know, we need to let them know this has been attempted. They need to try something else. And then record any actions that the IT professional or the client plans to take and the timeline. Like, I'm going to perform the King method on this hard drive tomorrow at 8 a.m. Why? Because we like to start with the nuclear option first. All right. We're going to go ahead and move past this one because we have a lot to cover today, unfortunately. So here is just kind of reiterating this real quick. So what exactly do you feel is the difference between note-taking and documenting?